Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this webinar. We'll get started in a minute. Just going to wait for a few more people to join. We've quite a few people joining. Okay, welcome everybody. Thank you for joining this March Digital Insights webinar. Today, we are going to be focusing on OnviSource. I'd like to welcome everybody to this what's I believe is going to be an insightful webinar. While the world is rightfully fascinated by generative AI and its incredible potential, making AI truly deliver tangible solutions for BPOs and call centers demands more than just generative AI on its own. Specifically addressing the critical areas of workforce performance, customer retention, and business productivity requires AI solutions enhanced by a series of next-generation technologies and sophisticated capabilities. So in today's session, we'll explore current BPO market data and unveil cutting-edge AI solutions that seamlessly integrate intelligence, automation, and autonomy to effectively overcome real-world BPO challenges. When I mention BPO, it could be any enterprise for that matter, but given that we're in the GBS sector, that will be the focus for today. Now, to guide us through this exciting discussion, I'm honored to introduce Ray Naini, the Chairman and CEO of OnviSource. With over 28 years of expertise in telecommunications, software, and technology solutions, Ray has successfully positioned OnviSource as an innovative leader transforming global business services, outsourcing operations, and their supporting functions. Ray holds 2 master's degrees in electrical engineering and computer sciences from Texas A&M University and the University of North Texas, respectively. Under his visionary leadership, OnviSource is empowered outsourced service providers globally by applying advanced AI-driven analytics and intelligent automation, significantly enhancing customer interactions, optimizing workforce performance, and boosting operational productivity. Ray's forward-thinking vision continues to equip global business services providers with actionable insights and impactful results, driving growth and competitive differentiation in today's fast-evolving marketplace. So please join me in welcoming Ray Naini. Welcome, Ray. Nice to have you on the call.
Thank you. Thank you for that warm and beautiful, kind words of yours. Appreciate it. Thank you, Neville. And thank you, BPESA, for coordinating the whole thing here. And good day, everybody. Appreciate it. Hopefully this will give you some thoughts and ideas about a framework of the destination and the future of the AI and direct applications of it to the BPO and call center industries. So let me start with trying to share with everybody in terms of what is exactly our objective out of this presentation. AI is just growing in 1,000 different directions, from the technology point of view, from the application point of view. It's just countless directions. So what is our goal? Our goal is to selectively pick the advancements and the evolution of the AI technologies and applications step by step in a progressive format, and those that are relevant to try to create a roadmap. You can call it a strategy, or mainly a framework that actually focused and tailored in terms of resolving problems as far as the call center and BPO industry is concerned. So that's basically our objective, creating a framework from bringing from many different advancements in the AI and the technology and the applications, focusing them, bring them into what is really a real solution for the real problems. Well, for the sake of this approach and the framework, we basically are going to call it Hyper AI. And all vendors and all other organizations can come up with their own names and the acronyms. It's generally speaking a next generation, but it is a step-by-step in that framework that actually focuses on transforming the call centers to intelligent call centers and providing the real applications to the real problems. That's our focus. So throughout this presentation, we're going to be talking about a framework that step-by-step can be built for call centers and the BPO industry. Well, I've got a spoiler, first of all. I don't want you to sit throughout the whole presentation and try to figure out exactly what it was for. So my spoiler here is to try to give you a sort of an understanding of what is going to be covered in this presentation. First of all, we're going to show you some market data from different research, and the numbers are different, but collectively, and the average numbers are basically defining and delivering the actual message. And the bottom line, basically, the market for call center and BPOs are growing in South Africa, in Europe, in US, and on a global basis. And US and UK market, as far as BPOs are concerned, the outsourcing is concerned, is growing. But the interesting thing, basically, is that that growth actually contributes, as we will see, to the growth of the South Africa, because a lot of those BPOs are getting outsourced into the companies in South Africa. So generally speaking, everywhere you look at it, the BPOs and call centers are well positioned for the growth. However, there's always a but. This is a very highly competitive landscape. For example, if you want to talk about South Africa, compared, for example, to Philippines, about 1 million call center agents, India about 1.3 million, and so forth. I mean, South Africa has some ways to go, and it is a competitiveness that can actually help the expansion of the market. So there are a lot of challenges, and trying to identify the most important, impactful challenges. There are really 3 areas about the actual agent performance and how you retain the customers and how do you make your business profitable and sustainable. One thing for sure, all the technologies that we have been using, the approaches and the methodologies that we have been using in the past are not going to be able to take us there. They're not going to contribute to the competitiveness that need to be created. Why? Because if you really look at it, as we will see, the agents are practically expected to be super agents. Customers are demanding far more than 5 years ago. They're in a different atmosphere, in a different mindset, different expectations. And if you want to survive and thrive, there are many different factors in your business that need to be automated, analyzed, and productivity has to be significantly improved. So we all know that AI and automation, one way or another, can actually contribute to the challenges, addressing them, and delivering some solutions. Nevertheless, we are creating AI solutions, automation solutions, RPAs and BPAs and interaction analytics, and they all are coming around in terms of their own silos. And the problem basically is that many years ago, we created the nightmare of the siloed data, and we're still trying to deal with it. And the systems from different vendors that they don't work together, and you have to have an army of people to try to interface with them and try to grab the data to try to really have a real-time, meaningful visibility. We're about to actually create another siloed nightmare called siloed intelligence, that we have the interaction analytics here, desktop analytics there, automation there, IVAs and virtual agents there. They've got nothing to do with each other. Nevertheless, they all are working on the same agents and they all are dealing with the same customer interactions, but they have nothing to do with each other. This is the future. This is what we are, and this is not too far away. And that is basically something that should be foreseen now and should be addressed now as far as the solutions are concerned. So let's call this thing, for the sake of this presentation and this approach at Hyper AI, a framework. which is a next generation and progressive, step by step. It doesn't have to be boiling the ocean here. It's just step by step toward a direction that can transform the call centers into intelligent call centers. The very first thing that we like to think about, rather than worrying about AI is going to replace the agents and persons and employees, which we will address that in this presentation, is really thinking about the AI not as a tool, but just like an employee that has a job definition when you interview them, when you want to hire them, and everything else. So let's just start thinking about it as a virtual employee, as somebody basically that comes to the company with a specific task and a job definition, and 2 months from now, you can give it another job definition and so forth. So let's try to create that paradigm. Based on that, we want to basically create an ecosystem of the AI agents, these virtual employees that are focused on certain job definition. And then there is somebody out there that orchestrates autonomously the performance of these agents. And although it is end up being an agentic AI, we don't have to go so far into the future of the agentic AI. We can start with cognitive orchestration of the AI agents, and gradually and step by step, as the AI technology evolves, delivering that kind of the orchestration that becomes completely autonomous, very much being self-aware and self-directed and operating with better and better step-by-step human qualities and the wisdom. The Hyper AI is promoting a standard framework that item number one, how do you take the today's analytics, let's say interaction analytics or the desktop analytics or something basically that engages the agents and so forth, and how do you put them into a framework that they can become AI agents? That's step number one. Step number two basically is to try to create an orchestration around it, that they all can be the member of that orchestration, that they can all work together and prevent to have a silo. Because just imagine in a contact center, when you have 500 agents and those agents are being automated, augmented, interactions are being monitored and improved, transactions on the desktop are being monitored and improved. They all are supposed to be coming into the framework of the AI agent, and they all can work together and communicate with each other to try to augment the performance of the call center. That's the definition of the Hyper AI framework. And to that area basically is just an ecosystem for addressing the actual challenges that are for real in the call center. And at the end of it, what we basically are going to talk about in terms of how a BPO, a call center, what are the best practices to try to select a vendor, select an AI solution, and bring them all together based on this framework. We will have some best practices that we actually have seen practically in the industry and exercised in the industry successfully, that can be some sort of a hint with respect to the whole thing. So this is what basically you will get in our presentation. So without any further delay, let me get started here. First of all, the market data. We have used 3 researchers, and the numbers are slightly different. Nevertheless, they all are saying that the BPO market is growing. This is the picture in between 23, 24, 25, based on the data basically that we collected. This is the picture between 29 and 30. As you can see, significant growth in all areas. We focus mainly on the global and also the USA and also South Africa to make this research a little bit more relevant with respect to the whole thing. So bottom line, BPO market is growing. These are the numbers, and these are the average way of growing it. What's happening in South Africa? Well, there's a lot has happened in South Africa. I do understand that still the unemployment rate is somewhere between 30 to 40% and so forth. But the fact of the matter, basically, that the South African country has come a long way, and it is steadily in a rise format, especially in the recent years. Why? You have a lot of skilled workforce, a lot of young energy, basically, that are eager to try to work. You can address the niche services other than just the customer service, for example, in accounting, healthcare, and everything else. Remember, actually, that 1.3 million call center agents in India majority of them are educated about the healthcare. That's why they have the biggest healthcare outsourcing in the world, actually. And so South African BPOs are positioned very well to try to take advantage of the niche services that are about the accounting and the employment and healthcare and all the areas. Why? Because there is a trend of outsourcing that is happening globally that is going beyond just the customer service. And they are now bringing in other services to be outsourced, and that will be an opportunity. Your time zone is perfect with Europe, basically, and of course not with North America, but with Europe. The tax incentives and infrastructure and political stability from the government, they have helped. They have definitely helped, and government has been investing. The legal system, which foreign companies really do care a lot about it, in addition to the political stability and infrastructure, is pretty solid. It's very reasonable, and I think that's one other areas basically that can attract a lot of foreign companies into the South Africa. And of course, needless to say, the labor cost is just amazing as far as the comparative analysis with the UK or US, and especially with the UK announcement that 20% increase in the minimum wages recently announced is going to push a lot of opportunities to South Africa. So South Africa is positioned very well to actually grow on the back of the market growth on a global basis. So the market is thriving by itself, but the interesting thing to look at the researchers that are coming out from these market research company is that whatever growth is happening, especially in US and UK, they're feeding back into the growth of the South Africa if South Africa can stay highly competitive. That's basically the key. So the opportunities are there. The country is well set to take advantage of that opportunity in US, in UK, in South Africa. The key would be how competitive you can be. How competitive you can be would be how good you can actually improve the performance of the agents, retain the customers, as well as making your companies sustainable and surviving and thriving from the business point of view. That's the conclusion basically that we can get from all the market research that are summarized over here. Now, there is a global opportunity, and the focus amongst many other things should really be on the most impactful areas that, as we talked about it, would be on the agents and the customers and operation efficiency. Please do remember that where it's going, just look at the way that we actually work with our agents. We are expecting them to be super agent with so many things around that. Customers are not just happy with the resolution in an interaction. They want to have a lifetime relation building and creating the trust and creating that empathetic relation with the customer. That's what they want. It's very different from the past. As a matter of fact, there were some conversations and discussions about the fact that our level of the quality of the service going down these days. That's not the case. It's not going down. It's the level of the expectation of the customer that is going up. And unless the service goes up, obviously it will be viewed as the quality of the services is going down. Operational efficiency, the company has to be viable, but there is a lot more to be done technologically, process-wise, and to maintain a call center or BPO viable in that competitive landscape. So conventional methods are not working, and those are not going to be something basically that you can continue with that. Eventually, at some point of time in the near future, BPOs are going to realize basically that there is a major shortcoming with respect to the conventional. Resolution, not enough. Just focusing on the satisfaction of a customer in that interaction or a couple of interactions, not going to work. It has to be a lifetime. It has to be a customer lifetime value management. The one-on-one training, how much you can train 2,500, 300 agents over and over and retain. There got to be some sort of a technological advancement in that area that can automate some of that, provide the real-time guidance during the interaction. Sampling, I know that is very rapidly converting into the automated QA and everything else, but still there are a lot of sampling happening, and sampling is not going to work. You don't have really the complete view of what's happening in there. Manual work, just imagine if you have 1,000 agents, and if each agent is doing 1 to 2 minutes of the what's basically called the wrap-up. That's 1,000 to 2,000 minutes on every single call, and multiply that by the number of the calls. That's the time that's being wasted, and you can see how much more workload you can handle if you just automate the actual wrap-up time for the agent workflow. Multilingual, it has its own challenges in terms of having people that are having different types of the languages. It will get replaced by the AI-driven multilingual. In other words, you will have multilingual call centers without multilingual agents, because the AI can come in and help them. Hiring, staffing, finding them, and training them, and the retention, attrition, all those challenges with the multilingual can actually be taken away from that. And finally, how many times BPOs or companies are supposed to be surprised all of a sudden in terms of customer is leaving and the churn is happening? This is something that can be predicted very well and prevented to a great extent, as we have seen it around the world with many different companies. So on the left-hand side, what you will see are the things that are happening today. On the right-hand side is a set of some of the opportunities that BPOs and call centers can evolve into to try to take advantage of the market growth that basically we're talking about that. And I think if BPOs and industries in different countries are serious about moving on to the next level of the profitability and growth, then they have to start from looking at it this way in terms of what is in there today and what should be there tomorrow. With that said, so we are expecting a transformation. The term transformation is utilized because you can take pieces and parts and progressively and step-by-step transforming that. Doing a little here and a little there, although it's satisfying, although it will give you a certain ROI in a certain area, it's not really the solution. Every BPO, every call center has to have a strategy, a framework of doing things step by step. And again, as I said at the beginning, don't try to boil the ocean, but try to have a strategy, try to have a framework. Bring in consulting firms, bring in the vendors that have that ability to try to put together, understand your business, where you're going, and putting together a growth strategy for you in a way that free of charge, growth strategy in front of you that you can see step by step, every 3 months, every 6 months. You implement certain steps, see the ROI, move on to the next one. But when the day is over, then you have all these elements working together, and you don't have to revamp your entire enterprise or deal with this siloed environment. So the transformation must focus on the most impactful areas. How do we maintain the retention of the agents and improve their performance? How do we deal with the new expectations of the customers? And how do we make our business profitable, secure? Here's the fact that I do encourage you to actually put yourself in the place of your agents and try to understand what you're asking them to do. That's what you're asking. It's amazing that we want agents to be compliant with all of these. And it really sounds like we are expecting our agents to be a super person, a super agent. And they're supposed to know the product, they're supposed to be polite, they're supposed to create empathy and relation, they should be fast, they should be on their toes, they need to generate revenue, they need to prevent churn, and everything basically that would come into the picture as far as the performance of the agent is concerned. We are expecting them to be super agent. And by the way, depending on what country you are, they basically are making $3,000, $2,000 a month to $5,000 a month or something like that, but they're expected to be super agents. The other thing is the customers are different these days. We need to realize, we need to understand the paradigm and the mindset that our customers are in there. They're not just happy with the resolution. They want to have a meaningful, respectful experience. And it has demonstrated, the stat demonstrated that when that relation is built with the customer, even if they find another type of the cheaper service or something like that, they are not really willing to leave the company because it's not the only factor in their dealing with the company. Empathy, trust, personalized relation. The fact of the matter is that if you're making a call and the agent on the other side has all the information about your past, when you called and were you happy, you were not happy, you did this last time and everything else, it creates personalization. And that is very important to try to create a data that in real time can be presented to the agent, so the agent can create that kind of a real-time relation in them. Omnichannel interaction, they can access in many different ways, and quick resolution with minimal customer effort. The CE in the customer CSAT basically is a very important factor as far as the measurement and the KPI is concerned. They want to access the service anytime from anywhere, and they don't want to always react to the problems. It would be wonderful if you can perform this proactively. If you're having a problem, basically you're touching your customer, contacting them, and try to actually resolve proactively. So there's a list of things, and there's probably a lot more than this. It just demonstrates the mindset and the paradigm of the customers today and how different it is actually from the past. When it comes to the operational efficiencies, if you're an executive of the company, if you're running the company, if you're responsible for P&L, the security, and everything else, you have your hands full. From the productivity to payroll expenses to overall the OpEx and business intelligence in terms of what the other competitors are doing, how they're doing it, are they winning away and from you, the subscribers and everything. In a lot of countries, quite frankly, let's talk about, for example, the wireless service provider, the cell phones. It's not that much of the new customers. I know that some teenagers actually grow and then start becoming a subscriber, but at the same time, some old agers actually they may just get out of the actual service. It's a lot about stealing subscribers from others, and how basically you would that. What kind of a business intelligence do you have about their plans, their pricing, and things of that nature? Just focusing on the service providers and everything else. Having the visibility, the real-time visibility in terms of the meaningful data that can make you a data-driven decision-making, very important. Retaining your customer, dealing with the siloed data and systems so you can get visibility into the whole thing. The security and revenues and profitability, the list is on and on and on. But without having a sustainable, surviving and thriving business entity, you're not going to be able to survive, obviously, in this market and take advantage of the growth of it. So again, we know that AI and automation can address this. We have seen samples of it here and there. There are a lot of good providers and manufacturers of the solutions that actually have proven the benefits of that. But it is not about deploying fragmented things around, because companies start with the interaction, then they want the desktop, then they want engagement, and they want basically the virtual agent. These are all about the same company, same agent, same set of customers that you're dealing with. And if you just start basically creating that kind of a fragmentation and what we call siloed intelligence, you basically are going to have quite a chore on your hand in terms of just managing and maintaining these scattered kind of the tools and capabilities, although each one of them has its own ROI. But when collectively you put it together, you get to the point basically that the value and the benefit of it just start diminishing. So that's basically where the framework that we're talking about will come into the picture. So first of all, as we talked about it, we like to redefine the AI. And redefinition basically is, don't think about it as a tool. Don't think about it as a product. Don't think about something that you bought and is loaded someplace and doing X, Y, Z and everything else. Truly think about it as an employee. Of course, a virtual one. But the fact of the matter is, just like that, try to understand what exactly this employee is supposed to do, just like the job definition. And quite frankly, if you are dealing with your vendor and stuff, give them the job definition, ask him to go hire that person, and prove that that person for about a month or two can perform the job and everything else. The reason that the paradigm has to be shifted to this kind of the mentality is that then you will start, because an employee comes to a company environment, an employee is part of the ecosystem of the company, will follow the policies. We follow things basically that the company has to do, and the hours to HR to everything else basically. That mindset is needed for the AI-driven solutions, because collectively coming together, they will create an ecosystem that orchestrated very well, and it will start creating a future for the BPO. And please do remember that this presentation is not advocating to try to get every member of the ecosystem put together, one step at a time, but to start with the members basically that can be accepted into that ecosystem. So then what basically you will end up will be every day that you add a member, a virtual employee, you're augmenting your performance significantly, and everybody talks to everybody. It's all about your company, and all the information, intelligence, and automations are coherently contributing to the performance of your company. So let's just start digging into it a little bit. The hyper AI is the next generation applied AI power. The term applied is utilized to making sure that we are not shooting for creating or visualizing the brain of a human being now. We have a long way to go, but we can take samples, certain things that are applicable to BPO and call centers, and create the specific AI models that can actually monitor and improve those kinds of the interaction. It's an ecosystem. Every member has to be accepted in that. Every member has to have an interface and a certain discipline that can be accepted into that. And we call them AI agents. There is common names. We're using it in this framework because we want to stay with the commonality of the AI world. Orchestrated by agentic AI. The most important first step of the agentic AI is cognitive orchestration. Because agentic AI, if you look at the overall AI technology, has an endless kind of a capabilities that eventually will operate probably like a brain of a human being, and AGIs and everything else. But the fact of the matter, basically, it can start with the cognitive orchestration, that it can engage each member when it's needed and communicate and provide the routing of the workload, and be sensitive to the context being created by each, that can provide a conclusive results to the company and so forth. That will take care of the autonomy, because the biggest difference between human being and the AI machine are really in two areas. If we just absolutely dare to oversimplify that, it will be basically based on autonomy and the human qualities and wisdom. These are the two areas that we gradually will work, and eventually, maybe in many, many, many years ahead of us, and with the help of quantum computing and everything else, we will get to the point that we can probably get closer to that. But to start with, we need to have a limited applied autonomy, as we talked about the ecosystem of the AI agents orchestrated by agentic AI, and add to that very carefully, very focused human qualities and the wisdom, like the empathy, making sure basically that the conversation and interaction has been respectful, and not going all the way to the imagination of the human brain. So these are the two elements, two principles of the hyper AI, to create that applied autonomy and to create that applied human qualities and wisdom that can be real applications and real solutions for the real problems of the BPO. So let's try to get into that a little bit more. Take an interaction analytics, a speech analytics from any company as it is today, and try to basically create a framework around it, a standard communication. It is focusing on a certain task, which most of them are doing. Basically, you can identify them as a QA and so forth. They can do the context processing and analytics and meta-analytics, which is basically a conclusion of the whole thing. It's sort of an explanation. Autonomous reasoning decision-making engine, and automating the action. So for example, as soon as it sees that there are certain things are not going in the right direction, it can actually create a notification automatically. And it can identify in its set of the learning and adaptation, it can position the latest experience. So it can continuously learn. These are very feasible, available technologies today between the RPA and the BPAs and the various levels of the AI and so forth that can be surrounding the speech analytics and interaction analytics to try to make it an AI agent. It's a task-focused AI agent. So it's a very practical way to try to create a tool, a solution, for example, a desktop analytics or interaction analytics, converting it into the AI agent the way that we basically look at it. What would be the example? What you will get out of this one will be not just an analytics, not just another tool, stuff like that. It will actually start in the interactions. For example, this is one example of it, in detecting the customer sentiment. And remembering that the customer sentiment basically is declining during a call. And it passes certain reasoning and certain explanation and certain decisions in terms of now it's time to do something about it. And then it creates an RTG, a real-time guidance to the agent, to try to guide the agent in terms of taking a different direction, escalating a notification, for example, to a supervisor and so forth. And based on that, it can add it to its knowledge system. This is AI agent. Very feasible, very practical. It does require development by the providers and everything else, but this will be the very first step into creating that ecosystem, because it now has the standard communication and the standard discipline. Think about it for all those software engineers that we're talking about microservices. All microservices are very task focused, but they are enveloped into a certain set of standards that they can all work together. And somebody can manage them, like, for example, you do them in the RPAs and the BPAs. Let's move on. The fact of the matter basically is that what is the biggest concern in the world about the AI? And the fact of the matter basically is that how they all can come together to make this thing as a set of solutions that are actually usable. And in this case, we were basically looking at the BPO industry and call center industry. Well, when you have that AI agent with those capabilities of the communication and the standard APIs and the standard exchange of the data, task focused, and it is also put together with and empowered by the RPAs and automations and notifications and communication, then you basically have the data capture, unification, and curation. Notice actually that the APIs and MCP, the model context protocol, they all are capabilities that will empower AI agent to work with the rest of the enterprise. Seamlessly kind of is sitting on that. And that is an important factor about the hyper AI to come in and seamlessly overlay the current and provide the visibility. It has the APIs and it has MCPs and everything else that can communicate internally and externally. One thing about the media context protocol, the MCP basically, is of the fact that if you look at the LLM, it's a very static AI engine. And what it means basically, it will give you, and it will basically provide you the solution that is trained for. But it doesn't have the ability to actually go out and see what happened 2 hours ago. And the MCP and technologies like that are basically the communication means, will bring into the picture of making your AI not only with the train, but also with what's happening outside. But simply speaking, the website search, for example. So I think the combination, that all are available, proven technologies, they need to be put together in a certain framework that we are advocating here as far as the hyper AI is concerned. Now let's see if we have these AI agents put together with the membership acceptance, and that they can communicate, they're task focused, they're empowered with the RPAs and everything else. You put them all together into an ecosystem. This is where the orchestration will come to picture. And it starts with the cognitive orchestration to know what is the overall goal. For example, if it is about the agent, what is the overall goal of the agent? The overall goal of the agent is improving interaction, the transaction, engaging them so they can see how they're doing and why they're doing it, and it's actually the job fulfillment and everything else. Trying to basically automate their workflow, their wrap-up time processes and everything else, augment them with virtual agents so they don't have to do all the mundane things. Something can be in front of them, and even adding the capabilities in terms of the multilingual, so they don't have to know all the languages in the world. So you can see that that's each one of them is an AI agent. The orchestration of that becomes the job of the agentic AI. And based on that, it needs to understand, for example, the elements that can improve each of these AI agents, how they basically communicate, bringing them, engaging them, and using them, and letting them go when basic is done, creating the holistic and consolidated results from their work and how they're doing it and everything else, and autonomously making decisions and creating reports and everything else. That's where basically it is. Agentic AI can go on for next 50 to 100 years in terms of being improved. But the very first level of the framework of the hyper AI focuses on that kind of the orchestration. And that's basically what we call agentic AI in the framework. So you want to have an example? You know, in if your call center is using all of these things, or some of them, or it will be using it, there are very familiar kinds of the improvement that need to be applied to a call center and a BPO. First of all, customer profile. You want to make sure basically that there is an AI agent that focuses on grabbing the data and consolidating the data, profiling the customer, and presenting it in real time the minute that the call is received by the agent. Why? Because the agent can start personalizing the actual interaction. The next one is monitoring the interaction, improving it, RTG and real-time guidance. Looking at the desktop, so on the interaction analytics, you basically heard what they said. On the desktop analytics, you can see what they did. And so they all are about the same agent, the same transaction and interactions. And you can engage them. So the agents are involved, they're self-managing themselves. That helps a lot in terms of the agent satisfaction and fulfillment, which basically will lead into the retention of the agents. In addition to that is automating the workflow. So it saves a lot of time, prevents the erroneous messages and actions and delays and everything else. Creating virtual agent to take care of the mundane and be a layer so the actual agent can actually operate on a higher level tasks, and even making them multilingual, creating a multilingual call center without multilingual agents. So you can see that these are the AI agents. And if you have an orchestration that can pull and engage them in and out, and they all can have a common communication around that framework, that's what we call the hyper AI framework. That's what we are hoping that we promote into the industry, to all the providers, in a way to bring everything back together. And especially for the call center and BPO market, try to have all these scattered tools and scattered RPAs and automations and analytics and everything else, and try to put them into a framework that they all can talk. It doesn't matter that they're coming from different vendors. They don't have to come from the same vendor. It's just that the providers and the vendors need to come together with this framework that is advocated and promoted here in terms of making their solutions actually work together. And quite frankly, right now, there are samples of that are happening. For example, there are some companies that provide speech to text. So the analytics people can come in and take that and convert it to analytics. Or some companies are providing basic analytics, and there are companies that offer meta analytics, so they can build on top of that. So whether we like or not, the framework is a reality happening out there. So let's try to actually plan for it, so we don't operate in a reactive format. Now, the only part that we are missing here is the human quality and wisdom, to the level of the applied artificial wisdom, to very focused on certain areas. The areas basically that are meaningful to the BPOs and call centers: empathy, respect, best practices. Like if your supervisor was going to handle this call, how would that supervisor would have handled it? Making sure that the communication and interactions are socially inclusive with different types of the people from different origin and everything else, and applying and watching for the policies and the governance of your BPO and your company. You can get a lot of huge amount of the data, training data, from calls that are empathetic or non-empathetic, that respect was conducted or was not. The best practices were exercised or they were not. So you can get a lot of training data and take the LLM and train it with that much of the data and create small language models. The small language models are focusing on empathy. They're focusing on best practices. And what basically they're doing, they're bringing in some sort of an applied artificial wisdom that can give the human quality. And now it can be added to monitoring and improving the interaction of the agents. So with the two principles of autonomy and human qualities and wisdom in the framework of the hyper AI, we will start progressively and step by step, bringing different tools and capabilities into the picture for the future that basically looks like this. Now, promise you that this will be the very last technology related kind of thing. So when you look at where we're heading, which we keep talking about the next generation AI that can contribute. Again, as I said at the beginning, there are thousands and thousands of different branches of the AI and applications that all are going in different directions and everything else. We're trying to select specific ones and bring in to focus on real applications, focusing real problems and everything else. So the LLMs basically are obviously going to be used because they understand. And the SLMs can focus that understanding on certain topic or certain topics. The generative AI obviously can create that context and multimodal outputs basically. But the problem with LLM and SLMs and generative AI is basically they're still static. They're still in and out and in and out. What is missing, which is basically making a great progress in the technology as far as the AI is concerned, very promising and very doable actually, is neurosync. And the neurosync AI basically, the big difference between that is actually that it is context awareness between different regions and can, in a very way of autonomy, it can orchestrate multiple activities in between LLMs and SLMs and generative AI. This practical AI that is really getting legs and improving day by day is really in a way that can bring in more reality and more promises in the doing of the agentic AI today, near future, and in the future. So when you look at these four elements, these are the drivers. These are the ones that deep inside the AI engine are creating an environment that can serve the framework basically that we were talking about. So generally speaking, if you want to look at the real application here, understand the customer's issue. The LLM will come into the picture. Create a reaction to that, and Gen AI will help that. Now, LLMs and SLMs can both detect in generality or detect something very specific, using the SLMs. Monitor and guide agent to conduct the interaction. And finally, using the neurosync AI to try to orchestrate all those activities and all those capabilities. This is how a very complex technology up there can be mapped into the real world problem, real world application as far as the BPO is concerned. That is where the framework basically is based on. So now, enough of the technology of that. So let's try to apply it. We talked about this framework. Let's try to apply it to call center. Where? To the three most impactful areas of the call center. First is the agent. You see all of that? These are all the capabilities that actually are in existence. What do they miss is that incorporation into the ecosystem, that discipline basically that can bring the personalization, the desktop analytics, interaction, automation, virtual agent, and auto translation. So if we create out of each of those tools an AI agent discipline that we talked about, and add to it the workforce agentic AI, which orchestrates these, then we have very much approached the super agent, because this is around an agent basically will have the opportunity to make the same agent a super agent, the way basically that we have thrown multiple complex tasks and duties at them. So you can see actually that the tools and capabilities that are out there that can be mapped into this ecosystem with that discipline and add the first level of the orchestration, cognitive orchestration and automation and communication between them and conclusive results and awareness of that, and then you have converted your agent. Now, how do you start? You don't have to start with all of these. You can start with the analytics in terms of the interaction or desktop, or you can start with the virtual agent. But if you have this framework, then as soon as you achieve and you're happy with the ROI of one of these AI agents, then you can add another one. And they all are going to work together. And not all of them should come from the same. According to this promotion by this framework, they don't have to come from the same vendor. And they don't have to be all the same provider and everything else. You can apply the super agent capabilities to any agent and make him truly a super agent. But right here, I would like to really address this lingering question that always comes up and the concern that everybody has in a way that AI is going to come in and replace and all that. So we can really get carried away with that conversation that never gets anywhere because do you know the answer of that? Or basically focusing on what AI can do for the agent. And it starts from the mindset. It starts from the introduction, how management and executives will start communicating with their agents and employees about the utilization of the AI by their company. It should be really looked at in a way that this is not here to replace you. And this is not here to try to take your job away. If you try to advocate this, that I'm hiring a virtual employee to be your buddy, to work for you, to help you, to make you better, to fulfill your job, to keep you satisfied, and very importantly, to make you grow. For example, it will give you real time, so you can have a personalized interaction with your customer. It can monitor to see how you're doing and propose improvements, provide you the real-time guidance. And it can automate, so as soon as you're done with the call, the rest of it basically is automated. Or if during the call, if you need to access something and go through a certain workflow, it automates for you. And taking care of the things that basically are boring to you, taking the address or certain forms that are well-defined and so forth in terms of the virtual agent fronting your job. Auto-translating, so you can enjoy actually talking to different people from different nations, different cultures and everything else. It's just like you're talking to your friends with the same native language. And being engaged so you can feel good about what you're doing. You feel that you're moved up to more complex, more meaningful tasks. If that communication is done with the agents, and if that's basically how the AI, that's why at the beginning we said don't think about it as a tool or something like that, because that has that connotation, that ugly connotation of replacement. But the fact of the matter basically is just think about that it is something that is going to come in and be your buddy to make you better, to make you feel better, perform better, and fulfill about your job and everything else. That's an important psychological introduction or thinking about the AI. AI is not all the technology. It's also about how we want to view the AI by us and by our employees. When it comes to the customer satisfaction, we talked about the customer lifetime the value management. The customer lifetime value management is an important factor to consider because it's over time. One direction is the length of the time that customer is with the company, you make more money. And while they are with the company, you have the opportunities to make more money. It is not only the customer satisfaction, it goes way beyond that. In that process of living with the customer, if I call it that way, customer relation building, making sure that you have a personal touch with them, making sure that you're demonstrating empathy and creating a trustworthy relation. You are fast responding with minimal customer efforts and 24/7 services from all kinds of different approaches and everything. They all basically are going to go on and to try to create an opportunity that you can make money, upsell and cross-sell. And also you will have an opportunity to prevent. And even if you lose that, you will be basically having in a format an opportunity that it will actually provide you with a way that you can go back and identify areas that you can win back some of the customers that basically have lost. You can analyze why they left, analyze the problems, and try to create that kind of the environment that you can go back and win them back. Customer lifetime retention, you can see the same agents are employed here, the same tools, but now they are matching in the ecosystem. You're giving them a different job definition. It's just like the same employee that you had one day they're doing XYZ and the other day doing a different kind of the thing. So the same AI agent can be provided with a different job definition. And now you can create that kind of the capability. The self-services, the analytics, the fast response, and churn prevention and the win back. These are all, by the way, proven capabilities that have demonstrated ROI in the actual market. And finally, same agents can be given a different job definition in a format that basically they can help the visibility go to different siloed systems in your enterprise, capture the data, organize it, and provide real-time visibility and reports. Because of the first call resolution, lower the call volume. The virtual agent obviously will help reducing the payroll costs, and on and on. You can basically see that the same AI agents are given a different job definition. Same virtual employees are given a different job definition to try to make that it's sustainable and profitable and thriving companies. Lastly, finally, a couple of things basically that you want to consider when you start putting this framework together, or in general, if you're basically trying to acquire any AI-driven solution. If you are concerned about these things, you are not alone. There has been so many interactions with the customers in the market. And if you're concerned, if you have the anxiety about these things that you see on the screen, you're not alone. You should be questioning these things. Is it a hype for me, or is it for real? Do I need to spend a lot of money? Do I need to hire a bunch of high-paid people and so on? But there's one thing for sure. If you don't use it, you will fall behind because of the competitiveness of the market. If you want to take advantage of the growth that we were talking about at the beginning, then the fact of the matter basically is that you have to start being competitive and fuel your competitiveness with technology and the framework that basically we're talking about here. So some of the best practices: expect your vendor to deliver these things and be adamant about it, and use it as a guideline, as the best practices basically. That you're really dealing with a vendor that is having a good investment in AI. They're serious about it. They're not just me too. I have some prompts and I'm sending them to the OpenAI ChatGPT. I'm getting these things, so I'm one of the AI people. That's not really the AI. The AI is far more than just, as you guys see basically in the framework, that there are so many things need to come together beyond just the engine of the AI to make this thing happen. That they have the research organization, they have the consultation, they have people that are business analysts sit down with you and try to understand what you're doing free of charge, and making sure basically that you are getting an understanding of what developing the job definition, as we talked about it at the beginning, and even optimizing your job definition. If you're working on a QA template, develop it together, because that's a job definition. From the point of view of the AI agent, that's a job definition. But optimize it. Don't try to basically have an optimized thing automated by the AI and RPAs and everything else. And they can provide you free of charge the proof of the whole thing through the POCs or pilots and everything else. And they have people that come to you and consult with you. There are business analysts, there are subject matter experts. That's the combination that you should be expecting from your vendor. The solutions should be really tailored. How? By job definitions. And that you can define your job definition, and their solution basically is capable of doing that. That they can bring an ecosystem and orchestration together for you. And they can even interface with other vendors that you have their capabilities in your ecosystem. Commercially, being fair, I think this whole notion that the AI has to be expensive because we're AI and so forth is completely false. As a matter of fact, in a lot of capabilities, it can be less cost, not only for the purchase of it, but also for maintaining that compared to the traditional and conventional tools. It has to be AI-centric deployment. This is not one of those things to install and train and walk away. It really has to have a significant, extensive onboarding. You need to have the employees of your vendors working for you for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks until you get the ROI, until your job definition is optimized and working. Expect that from your vendor. The support is not the conventional support. If you have a problem with the job definition, this is not a bug in the software. It has to go back into the AI circle and cycle in a format, basically, that this job definition can be optimized, modified, and go through the entire process of LLMs and SLMs and everything else that need to be, and prove it and giving it back to you. See how far different it is from the conventional support, basically, that you may get from other capabilities when there is a software bug or there's a resolution that has to be done. The last, AI technology is evolving every day, every hour, if not every minute. And the vendor must keep up with that technology. As you can see, the framework is a progressive framework. Every day is going to get better and better, although the concepts are exactly the same. And what basically has to be identified and figured out and settled, basically, is that those updated technologies are not going to come at you as a separate pieces of the proposals or cost or anything like that. They need to be part of your maintenance. They need to be updated and without additional charge. You have to be very careful about that, because AIs that have been around for, I would say, 8 months ago, most of them are passé, most of them are old, and are replaced with better technologies and capabilities, and your vendor should not be charging you based on that. So these are some of the capabilities that should demand from your vendor, and knowingly walk into it, but have consultation people that actually can walk you through it to create the framework that we talked about it. So we talked about our goal, we talked about our objectives and the framework and everything else, but we also have a vision behind that, in terms of really creating an intelligence mixed with certain levels of the human expertise and qualities. Maybe this will be a good symbolic thing to actually start with coito ergo sum, to say basically what René Descartes said in terms of I think, therefore I am. Let's just start thinking about that as a vision. We're going to be far away from it. But the hyper AI should be something that is start progressively putting things together in an organized ecosystem, orchestrated format to try to get that. With that said, my friends, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Ray. That was quite insightful. Lots of good feedback. We do have one question from Geraldine before we close out. Geraldine asks, when do you expect to see these type of solutions rolling out into South Africa?
Very soon. So far, I was truly representing Emerge, which is basically a vendor agnostic company in terms of dedicating and focusing on the call center and BPO, trying to bring the knowledge and incubation and everything else, vendor agnostic. But let me change my hat into the OnviSource. There are certain capabilities that actually we have announced and we will be announcing very soon in terms of some of these technologies coming to South Africa. We can see that our colleagues in other companies basically are delivering that. The key is actually that the delivery is not about basically that you have now an interaction automation. The thing is that you have now an interaction automation as an AI agent, which can be part of the orchestration of AI agenting. That's the goal. And it's basically happening as we are moving forward to that. And we're very excited, quite frankly, about the framework that is giving us a discipline. The framework basically is giving us a direction, a playbook, and a strategy to try to put all of our elements together. So try it. It is coming there. And if you have questions and so forth, talk to your vendors, and you will see basically that a lot of realities are coming together.
Yeah, great. Thank you, Ray. So with that, we're out of time. If the OnviSource can just get back to Claiborne. Claiborne has put quite a long question in there. I think he's asking for a response. Other than that, our next Digital Insights will be on the 22nd of April. We'll be coming out with details on that very shortly. But Ray, thank you so much for putting this together. I think this has been extremely insightful. Appreciate the effort that you and OnviSource are making, the investment that you're making in South Africa. And with that, I'd like to thank everyone that attended. Thank you for the attendance, which has been very good. Thank you to everybody, and then we'll see you all shortly.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Neville.